My father was very much involved in show business, and I think that's primarily my influence as far as how I came into it. Um, in the 50s, he worked with John Cassavetes. It was to hear different people tell it, the Lane Cassavetes Theater Workshop or the Cassavetes Lane Theater Workshop, depends who you ask. And, the lore goes that Jenna Rollins could have been my mom, but no, John stole Jenna from my dad. And, it's the 50s black and white movies that they made there. And John kept the workshop, and how should I say? No, John left with the kitchen sink movies, as my dad angrily referred to them. And he thought John was selling out. And Dad wanted to make a certain kind of theater experience for people. And John went off into movies. Now, my father did a lot of different things professionally before I came along. That was one of them. On my 6th Christmas, as an IOU for a Christmas present and sort of as a joke among the adults, I was given a clipping from the Village Voice asking for 7 to 10-year-olds to come down and audition for the Greek tragedy Medea at La Mama Experimental Theater in 1971. That was the winter, and became 72. And my dad said to me, "Would you like to be in a play?" And I said, "That's a silly question, Dad. You know I love to play." Because it's really corny, but it's really true. I didn't know what he meant by play. So I went down, and at that point my father was driving a taxi for income, and he dropped me off outside of the theater on 4th Street, and he's top of the stairs. So I marched up the stairs, and I said, "I'm here about the job." And I walked out with the job. And so I had no idea that was going to sort of be the trajectory. A 2-degree shift taken a long way. It can decide your life. You don't realize it. But anyway, so that's how I got started. I stayed with that theater company in all the various productions that we did. I was the kid in the plays. And we did Medea and Electra and the Trojan Women, and we did As You Like It and Good Woman of Sichuan, and there wasn't necessarily a role for a child in every play, but they would use me because I was really a member of the company, and plays were directed by Andre Serban, and of course Ellen Stewart is La Mama, and very much my godmother, and sort of the spiritual godmother of a lot of major artists, who've gone on to become icons. I still know my lines. I mean, they are branded into my brain synapses because I'm so terrified I might forget them. I still have them memorized. That first experience, I had no idea how good I had it because George was such an amazing director. I mean, of course I knew because I'd seen his movies. I mean, Butch Cassidy and The Great Waldo Pepper and The Sting, and even The World of Henry Orient, which dealt with young girls. And he said in his interviews at that time, he said, "I make movies that deal with innocence." And I guess he's talking about the innocence of his characters and the way that they become aware of their own innocence, for good or bad, or a commodity that they want to hang on to or let go of. So I learned a lot, and it was just a great. It took me a while to appreciate that experience because I had to have a lot of others to realize how good it was. I had just turned 17, and I got a phone call asking me to be in The Outsiders, and that was very heady experience for me because Francis Coppola, I mean, yeah, it was. I said yes very quickly, and it turned into 2 movies because we stayed in Tulsa, and then Rumblefish grew out of Outsiders. Francis was famous for what came to be called the Silverfish, which was his Airstream trailer, and he had all of his monitors in there and his equipment where he could edit on, I don't know if it was tape then. I doubt it was digital yet, so it must have been tape. But it was still a lot faster. You could almost have your day's scene edited to look at that evening. And he did. We would film the entire movie in front of a blue screen, pantomiming the props and sort of cheating on the wardrobe. And he'd gather us all around so that we could look at the blue screen one day filming the movie like a play. We sat down. He had popcorn and everything. We looked at it, and we realized how much we needed a director. It was a very smart thing to do to a bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because that's when you think you know everything. And he didn't have to fight for our ear after that. I missed all of the rehearsals for Cotton Club, first of all, because Streets of Fire went over. They cut all my hair off, which had been down my back, and this rock star hairdo for Streets of Fire. Cut it off so far that they were shaving the back of my neck and bleaching the parts that I wouldn't let them shave any more off. Because they had to fit it under different wigs, and at one point I was blonde, and another point I had black hair, and then my own hair in the middle of the movie. And sometimes people see that movie and they go, huh, so you were the blonde, well, who was the other girl? I said, that was still the same character, man. What movie were you watching? But anyway, that movie I think really holds up beautifully. It's Cotton Club it's like a moving oil painting. That's what I called it, because so much artistry went into it. Some shots took 3 days to set up, and they were worth it because there was no cheap way to do it. You had to have all the timing. It was old-fashioned in the craftsman way of making film. It's an ongoing search always to it's almost the subconscious leads in an actor's life, in terms of you have a taste for something and you want to try something that you haven't done before. That's part of the fun. You get to don different hats and be stretched. Obviously, you can sort of cheat and do things on stage that are not necessarily possible in the movies. But there have been highlights that grabbed me, and one of them was certainly A Walk on the Moon. Every chance there is to create another footprint in the sand ahead of roles for women, it propagates more roles for women. And I always feel that way when I see actresses who have success. I feel like it's one for the team. It's good. We need to celebrate and share in that, because united we stand. Yeah. Lonesome Dove still holds true in people's hearts as the quintessential tangible Western. I mean, it came into people's living rooms, and when you have Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones up there with their dueling Texan accents, or Arkansas or wherever they hailed from. And I mean, it was Pulitzer Prize winning book, and living up to people's expectations. That was a real gift, because so many people wanted it. And all you have to do is stay out of your own way and give it to them. And Lorena was a great character, because not only was it the traditional thing of a whore with a heart of gold, but in the book, I don't know how many sentences she had, very few, but you were experiencing her inner life, her emotional life, in the way that only a book can give. So for me, it was great because I could have a cheat sheet. The book was my Bible, and, I knew everything the character was feeling. It's right here on page 46, you see. But because it was so well written, it was done for me. And Angelica Houston, I mean, it was an amazing time. It was my father's favorite thing that I ever did.